Magic, White and Black. The Science on Finite and Infinite Life. Material man, entombed in his chrysalis of clay, can only feel but not see the spiritual rays that radiate from the sun of infinite truth. But if he bids his emotions be still and commands his reasoning power be not deluded, he may stretch his feelers into the realm of the spirit. In dealing with the unseen, his heart should be used as a touchstone to examine the conclusions arrived at by the brain, and the brain should be employed like scales to weigh the decisions of the heart. But when the light of divine wisdom comes to his aid, there will be no more difference of opinion between the head and the heart. The perceptions of the one will be in harmony with the aspirations of the latter, because both will be joined in the light. Man is usually guided principally by his intellect, woman by her emotions. Man represents intelligence, woman the will. To reason from external appearances has become a necessity to men in consequence of their material organization, which like a shell surrounds their soul. But if the innermost spiritual man, sleeping in every heart, awakens to life, he emits a light that penetrates through the veil of matter and illuminates the mind. If this germ of divinity hidden in the center awakens, it emits a spiritual light, which reaches from man to the stars and to the utmost limits of space. And you know, by the help of that divine light, the mind may perceive and penetrate into the deepest mysteries of the universe. Those who are able to know the truth by direct perception do not need to be informed of it by others. The whole of the visible and invisible realm lies open before them, like a book in whose pages they may read the whole history of the world. They know all the manifestations of life because they are one with the source of life from which all forms were born. They need not study letters because the word itself is living in them. They are the instruments through whom eternal wisdom reveals itself to those who are entombed in matter. These are the true saviors, adepts, illuminates, Rosicrucians, Mahatmas and Theosophoi, not those pretenders who merely fancy to be what they not really are. How pitiful must appear to the enlightened the war of opinions raging among those whom humanity believes to be the keepers of knowledge and wisdom. How insignificantly small appear those lights before the sun of divine truth. What appears as a light to the ignorant appears to the illuminated seer as darkness and smoke, and the wisdom of the world becomes foolishness before the eye of the truth. The oyster in its shell may believe itself at the pinnacle of perfection, and that there is no higher existence than that which it enjoys in the ocean bed. The self-conceited, proud of his learning, is swelled with vanity, knowing little how little he knows. Many of the representatives of modern science forget that the greatest inventions have been made not by the professed guardians of science, but by men with a clear perception and upon whom they looked with contempt. They ought to remember that many useful inventions were made and introduced not with the assistance, but in spite of the opposition of the learned. It may be disagreeable to call up unpleasant memories, but we cannot close our eyes to the fact that the inventors of railroads, steamships, and telegraphs have been ridiculed by professors of science. Men of science have laughed at the belief in the rotundity of the earth. And some of the appointed keepers of the truth have often been conspicuous on account of their misunderstanding of the laws of nature and of their opposition to truth, whenever it conflicted with their preconceived opinions. Many useful discoveries have been made through the power of intuition. Some have been made by logical reasoners without intuition, and their results are still a curse to mankind. For centuries, the learned professions have been thriving on human suffering, and many of their followers, mistaking the low for the high, have prostituted their knowledge. The fear of an illusory devil external to man has served to swell the money bags of Brahmins and priests, while the real internal devils residing in the passionate nature of man were allowed to grow. For centuries, many of the self-appointed servants of the Supreme have only served the golden calf, residing in their animal nature, feeding their followers with false hopes of immortality and speculating on the selfish propensities of men. Those to whom humanity looks for protection against bodily ills, and who therefore more than anybody else should understand the real constitution of man, still experiment with the physical form to seek the cause of disease, being ignorant of the fact that the form is an expression of life, the product of the soul, and that external effects cannot be effectually changed without changing the internal causes. Diseases are the necessary results of disobedience to the laws of nature. They are the consequences of sins that cannot be forgiven, but must be atoned for by acting again in accordance with natural laws. Physicians may restore health by restoring the supremacy of the law, but as long as they know only an infinitesimal part of the law, they can only cure an infinitesimal part of the diseases afflicting mankind. They sometimes suppress the manifestation of one disease by calling another and more serious one into existence. In vain will such investigators seek for the cause for epidemic diseases in places where such diseases may be propagated, but where they are not created. A true conception of the nature of man will lead to the comprehension of the fact that man, being as a microcosm, the true image, reflection and representative of the macrocosm of nature, Nature has the same organization as man, although not the same external form. Nature has her dropsical swellings, her nervous tremblings, her paralytic affections by which civilized countries turn into deserts, her inflammatory affections, her rheumatic contractions, spells of heat and cold, eruptions and earthquakes. What does modern medical science know of the constitution of man, whose life and safety is made to depend on that knowledge? Laboring under their fatal mistake, they attempt to cure that which is not sick, while the real patient is unknown to them. The ideal physician of the future is he who knows the true constitution of man and who is not led by elusive external appearances, but able to examine into the hidden causes of all external effects. There is nothing whatever that can be accomplished without the power of faith, and there is no faith possible without spiritual knowledge.